I want to share with you something about Generation Z. During my time that I worked as a teacher, training social workers, suddenly we discovered around 2012, 2013 that our students were different. When we discovered that our students were different, I was really interested in how are they different and why are they different. And that's when I first started hearing about Generation Z. And this really appealed to me, and I thought I have to learn more on how to approach them, how to help them, how to equip them, help them grow. As a teacher, you always want to make, sure that the content you share and the way you teach really fits to the culture of the young people and fits with the generation. So I started to go to some workshops, do some training on Generation Z, read some research and books, so to equip myself and in working with that generation. And yeah, I learned a lot, and I want to share some of the things that I've learned with you. So I hope this will be helpful, because also in YWAM we do have a lot of Generation Z coming in our DTSs and even, the younger staff. And I want to share with you how they are different than the generations before, and yeah, share some of my insight. So the first thing I want to share with you is just who is Generation Z? Well, they are born between 1996 and 2015. So in 2021, this year, they will be between the age of 6 and 25 years old. So this is something that, yeah, who are we talking about? Well, in 2025, Generation Z will grow to a size of 2.6 billion worldwide. Wow, this is a really, really big generation. Interesting fact is that in 2020, 40% of the consumers were Generation Z. Oh, I was wondering, how can it be that just a generation between, the age of 6 and 25 years old is 40% of the consumers? Well, it's also due to the parents, because Generation Z has a very good relationship with the parents, and they are know what they want, and they often, have influence on how their parents are, spending their money, how they have influence on, the holidays or vacations or day trips they're making as a family. They have influence on what gadgets they wanna have. So this is what makes them 40% of the consumers in 2020. Let's dive a little bit more into Generation Z. Everything that I will be sharing on Generation Z is, of course, very generalized. Uh, every individual is unique and can be different. And it also depends on whether you are, almost 25, so very close to the millennials, or if you are younger or in the middle of the Generation Z. Generation Z appears to be very sensitive to all kinds of stimuli. Their senses seem to be very refined and highly developed. They observe much more than most people find normal up to now, and they are open for all kinds of stimuli that are explainable or inexplainable. 81% of the Generation Z have something to do with the sixth sense. Sixth sense is something that is in the supernatural. So the Generation Z is very open for everything that, has to do with the supernatural. This is actually a challenge for us as Christians, because they are very open to experience God, to experience the Holy Spirit, because they really believe there are supernatural things. But this is also something for the generation that is actually frightening, because they are open for everything. So also open for things that are not so positive, influencing them. So a lot of this Generation Z, when this came from a research done amongst several thousands of children and young people, they have supernatural experiences, but also from the negative sides. They hear voices, they talk to people that have died, in the night they see doors opening and closing, so they're very open for this. This can make them afraid, and this may give them anxiety. But this is also for us very chance to talk to them about the supernatural, about God. A lot of them believe that there must be something. This is very different than their parents, for example, who've tried to shut themselves off for such things. Then another thing is that they have a lot of life questions. From a very young age, Generation Z is concerned with life questions like, why do I exist? Where do I come from? Where do I go when I'm dead? What is the meaning of life? Many different directions are sought to find answers for these life questions. So today's children, they explore all different kinds of conceptions of God as well. And so it's not old-fashioned anymore to believe in God. They are just, looking for something. So this is also connected to the sensitivity, but also to, the questions they have. A lot of these Generation Z, they don't feel at home in this world, which is actually very sad, that they don't feel at home. They struggle with the materialism they see, the selfishness, the harshness, and the dishonesty and the violence that has flooded our world. And a number of them regularly ask themselves, what am I actually doing here? Gen Z grows up in the most diverse society ever. Maybe it doesn't apply for every European country, but for a lot of European countries it does. For example, in the Netherlands, almost 25% of the generation from 0 to 25 years old comes from a migrant background. And this percentage is actually increasing. So you have a mixture of characteristics and different cultural determined norms and values, and this creates a very big, broad variety in the living environment of Gen Z. And this environment forces them to also be tolerant and open-minded. How else are you going to connect with your peers, if you're not open to other cultural backgrounds? And with this comes a sensitivity to discrimination. They are actually, the most diverse generation. Another thing that comes with Gen Z is that they will soon be the most educated generation, but they will also be the most highly educated generation. So what an opportunity lies ahead for Gen Z. As we talk about Gen Z, we see that this is also a generation that is easily labeled or diagnosed with things in which they are different. Approximately 25% of the 5 to 25 years olds wears at least one label, and more than 15% is also suspected of some sort of being different. So in total, more than 40% of these children and young people are different. High sensitivity is the most common label that they have. Children and young people with a certain label appear to be significantly less happy than those with no label. I was just wondering why so many children nowadays or young people have this label. Is it because the children have changed, or is it the way we look to the children that has changed? Like things that we would accept as being a boy or girl that could concentrate less than others, or has more energy than others, considered normal, and nowadays it's considered different. So I don't know where it comes from, but it is that that a lot of these children have a label. Is it also maybe because we want our children to be more perfect? We have this idea of how a child has to look like. Generation Z obviously grew up with the internet. They are used to a constant flow of information, and they process information very quickly. And they are, ultimate multitaskers. They don't use 3 screens at the same time, but they can use 5 screens at the same time. And they are also used to having everything within one click. You have one click and you have the news, one click and you have music, one click and you buy a product. So they spend a lot of hours online, most of the time on their phones, according to researchers, and they use a lot of apps, and of course also all kind of different social media apps. But they grow up with the internet.